Well, good afternoon. I'm going to try and be reasonably brief on this. Uh, I'd like to discuss the situation here in regarding to Sumerian history. Now, I've read books on the subject, and I've seen uh, documentaries on YouTube um, that outline the fact that the Sumerians were the first culture in the world to have a written language. Also, they had a extremely complex and brilliant, shall we say, mathematics. In fact, some of their mathematical formulas have only just been recently understood. So that's how complex they were. Also, they had many other advances that other countries didn't get for a long time. Now, it is said that their history, written history, mind you, goes back between 4,000 and 6,000 years, which is an awful long time. There is a carving on a Sumerian temple. I guess it's in modern day Iraq, obviously these days. And it shows the solar system of the sun, and the planets are all in orbit. And it was created thousands of years before telescopes, before anybody could observe all the planets that were in orbit. And of course, in ancient days, they could see Mars and they could see Venus, but that was, to my understanding, about it. In other words, they could see the sun. But this shows all the various planets in orbit. Now, it's one of those things that I find is nearly impossible for anybody to ignore. Now, then, and I've discussed this with a couple of family members, including my wife's niece and her husband. What do you know about the Anunnaki? Or have you heard of the Anunnaki? And the answer is yes, I have heard of it. Yes, I've somewhere been Bible studies and so on, or whatever. Things have been mentioned about the Anunnaki. Well, the Anunnaki, it just means from stars to earth they came. In other words, today we call them aliens, and they called them God. People of Sumeria called them gods because what they showed them was tremendous advance in their knowledge. And so, they've obviously got treated as gods. So, it's not a myth. It's not made up, in other words. That history is there. But then we see the Bible, and just how old is the Bible? Well, look, I want to argue with you, but around 3,000 years is what best I can understand it. So, Sumerians had written language before the Bible was written. So why is it that nothing has been found in the Sumerian texts, and now I'm talking hundreds of thousands of texts are around, still exist? Why isn't the creation story shown in those texts? Or can anyone tell me whether it has been somewhere? Because I've never heard of it. So what has happened, in other words, we've got a text we call the Bible, and people live by it. That's fine, they go word for word and study it and all the rest of it. I'm aware of all that. I've done plenty of Bible studies and things myself, and I read it every day basically. But the question has got to be answered. Why is it that Christians, and perhaps not just Christians, I guess many non-Christians in this world, just completely brush off the Sumerian history and shrug their shoulders at the Anunnaki, can't explain the carving of the solar system and so on, but just put it all aside and don't answer it. Don't bother with it any further. So I want to know from people in other words, in a civil and polite manner, your comments on all of this, and can you add anything to what I've just been talking about? So I'm just curious about it all, so I'd really like to hear from somebody on their opinion about this entire matter. So thanks for viewing.